Hello, in this video I will explain how to delete data in a table. This part would be the part of deleting data in a table in Vue.js 3. From the CRUD of Vue.js 3 example. First, what we are going to do is go to the table, where the data will be displayed. In this case, what I am going to do is create a button, so that when clicking the modal appears, for the delete data. Then I create or modify a button, and I add a v on click, and the button click delete, and the product ID would be used, which would be to be able to identify the ID, which, for example, in this case would be to detect each ID of each product, which would be developed later. Then we create a modal for the delete, with the modal fade, and with the ID, which is delete formulary modal. Then in the modal header, we write delete modal as title. Then in the modal body, we create a form with the submit, prevent, button, delete, item, and the product ID, which would be, for example, in this case, to identify the ID of the product. And we are going to create what would be an input with the following values. One has a v model, which finds with the product and the ID. In this case it would be product ID. Then we close the form and the modal body, and finally we close the modal. When we already have this, the Axios, and the JQuery, and when we already have the products, and the product, and each product where the names for the table would be put in the default export. We are going to create in methods, button, click, delete, with ID, which would be for the open of the modal. The delete formulary modal would be for the open modal. In this case, in the URL, the data of that ID should be shown in JSON format. However, in this case, what it does is make the modal open, and the data of that ID appear. Then we create a const with the names of the table, and with the ID, we equal it to response data. And then we make the names of the inputs of our table equal to the const that we created. Then we close and create the error that in this case I added a console log error. Then we will create in methods button delete item ID, which would be to update the data and hide the modal. And we will use axios and delete to delete the data in the URL, and then the response. Then we make it so that the table is updated and the modal is hidden, then the error. Then we close. That would be all.